may no suffering go untransformed. Suffering will occur. I want to transform whatever I go through so that it is of service to others, because that will help me feel like I have been emptied out of all the useful stuff before I die.
I've noticed this in terrible moments of grief. Often somebody will start to laugh and then they'll feel guilty. Or I've talked to many people who feel sad. They're like, I'm having so much fun, even though this horrible thing just happened to me. I mean, this is what happens. And it's okay, like grab that moment, because you're going to be crying in the bathtub for many months to come. So yeah, let it rip now.
You're listening to Solving for Joy. I'm your host, Dr. Chrissy Ott, a multi-boarded integrative physician and professional certified life and career coach. This podcast is about joy, what it means, how we find it, and the creative ways people are solving for it in their own lives. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome, friends. Thank you for joining us. Today, we are playing at the intersection of science, soul, and showing up for your actual life. Our guest is Dr. Sarah Bamford Seidelmann, a fourth-generation physician who spent 2 decades as a self-described disease hunter, aka pathologist, before getting deeply curious about what creates health. That curiosity led to 6 best-selling books, a playful app called What the Walrus Knows that's traveled to 65 plus countries, and a body of shamanic work that invites us to learn from the wild world, including guidance from her spirit ally, Alice the elephant. She helps helpers and everyday humans connect to spirit through her shamanic work, make brave, creative choices, and set boundaries that keep our gifts sustainable. Her newest work is a fully illustrated workbook on boundaries. I'm so glad you're here. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so glad to be here.
Yes, it is not every day that one meets or gets to have a shared conversation with somebody who has those particular beads on their necklace.
Yeah, sometimes I forget how weird I am. Not weird, but just unique. Unique path. We all have unique paths. I love the part about having boundaries, so our creativity and our lives are sustainable. Like that's a wonderful thought. I like that idea.
It is a wonderful thought. Sustainability and boundaries is like something we could dive into this entire conversation. I have no doubt. I just want to give some love first to the book that I got first in the mail, which is this one. I'm going to hold it up to the camera. How Good Are You Willing to Let It Get? And this is a daily book. I want to call it a devotional, in that it's a centering each day, and there is sort of a supplication statement that starts with "Dear God." And many people, of course, will wrestle with that phrasing, but whatever, fill in your own "Dear Spirit,"
Yes.
"Dear Goddess," "Dear Moon Child." Anyway, this is such a lovely book, and there's this wisdom from Alice, which it feels like is a channeled entity. Tell me what that's like. How do you respond to that?
So that book came out of 100-Day Project, which is something that I'm very enthusiastic. I'm extremely keen on 100-Day Projects.
Yes.
Which are just these projects where you do something every day for 10, 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be huge, but you do it every day. And it's such a ceremony. It's such a teaching. You learn so much about yourself and where you're stuck. And anyway, so it started out as a 100-Day Project. I found out one weekend when I left town and I delayed some posting, a bunch of people emailed me like, where is Alice's message today? So my intention for the daily work was to just do a shamanic journey using the drum to visit Alice and ask her for a teaching that I could share with other people. Anyway, I learned that people really miss the messages. And so that's when I was like, maybe I'll turn it into something else. And so when I went back and to turn it into a book, I ended up, adding my own kind of reflections and stories based on what her message was.
You shared your own lived human wisdom in this book as another layer to the sacred or the divine that you were journeying toward and asking guidance from. and how that is actually just a special thing to put a mental highlighter on, because it's both. We don't have to have a black or white either or moment. We can contribute our own human wisdom to the sacred divine. In fact, we are invited to. It's part of our creative birthright, and it's part of what's fulfilling to those of us who have a calling of that sort in this lifetime.
For sure. And I feel like it's a little bit of relief, right? Because I know many of Alice's messages are funny and they're kind of like, she's getting you to laugh at life somehow. I feel like I wanted to add that humility because otherwise we can get it could feel so pious or so like, as one of my teachers used to say, we didn't come here to be saints. Ain't
Yeah.
none of us got time for that.
We didn't come here to be special. It gets like clear the ego out and then do it again. That inspires me. I'm going to read yesterday's Alice.
Oh, yeah.
I did not pick this out. This is a random contribution, my friends. It happens to have been on my birthday yesterday. So in that way, it's a little bit special. Here we go.
It.
September 7th, say cheese. Alice the elephant says, smile, do it for me. Sarah says, a wise Peruvian medicine woman looked at our group of seekers who would soon return home after an intense and challenging spiritual retreat and said, the world out there is a big mess. So when you get to the airport, sit up straight and smile, laugh even. She wasn't encouraging us to feel our feelings or to consider more deeply the tragic state of the Earth's ecology. She was admonishing us to be stubbornly glad, as poet Jack Gilbert suggests in the harshest of times. Try smiling now. What changes when those corners of your eyes and mouth lift? And dear God, help me to be dogged in my cheerfulness today. And dogged in our joy.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Even though the world's falling apart, and I think, I remember when she told us that. And there's something about, like, I've learned in sitting in ceremony too. It's best when things get rough or you're exhausted or the ceremony's going on too long or, it's time for a break and nobody's leaving and it's just rough time.
Woo, been there.
Best to, like, instead of getting all schlumpy or wanting to lay down, it's best to, like, reclaim your seat, stand up and just focus, like find something to pay attention to and that little lesson is so powerful because if you can do that, like much horrible things become much more bearable when we're paying attention, fully present. And the smiling is good too. It's like, I think that's something I've struggled with my whole life. I grew up in my family of origin. My dad had depression his whole life. My mom struggled with that as well and had bipolar later in life. And my sister, who's a stand-up comedian, Maria Bamford, who's very public about her mental health. Yes, amazing, amazing. She too was struggling, right? And then I was sort of like I wasn't depressed. So I guess what it was is sometimes I felt guilty for feeling good or like I should tamp myself down, in some respect because things are hard and things are sad and people aren't in the best of moods, definitely. But what I've kind of learned through Alice has really helped me is like, if you're feeling good, don't hide that. I mean, you don't have to go shouting and, putting whoopee cushions under everybody's chairs, but like don't shy about that because or like in times like I've noticed this in terrible moments of grief, like often somebody will start to laugh and then they'll feel guilty, or I've talked to many people who feel sad. They're like, I'm having so much fun even though this horrible thing just happened to me. And I'm like, yes, I mean, this is what happens. And it's okay, like grab that moment because you're going to be crying in the bathtub for many months to come. So yeah, let it rip now.
Surf the paradox.
Yes, yes, yes.
I would love to ask you to share with me and our listeners how you explain to people what you mean by shamanism, because not everybody has a sense of what that is. I have a sense, and also I have a curiosity because my sense may not be the exact same as someone else's sense, but because we don't have as many non-parochial spiritual leaders in our midst that we recognize as a tribe, I want to have lots of time to explore what it means to claim the role of shaman in this day and age. What's that like?
When I think of what is shamanism, it's practiced all over the planet, just in every everywhere, all over the globe. And what I remember that I thought was quite interesting when I was first starting to kind of explore these realms was that whether you're talking to a shaman in Norway or one in Brazil or even Australia, they all have a similar, it may have different names, it may be different ways they call it, but a similar view of the world and its structure, how it is created. For example, the world tree, or having this central pole in which everything is formed around. So there's some things that are kind of, I don't want to say universal, but nearly universal. But really what shamanism is the practice of a person using something to alter their consciousness. The most common and most widely used would be sonic. So, like rattles, drums, didgeridoo, some kind of repetitive noise. Sometimes I just lay in bed and just tap on my chest, use my chest as a drum. And to alter the consciousness. So, of course, other things can be used, like psychedelics, what we call psychedelics, things from the natural world, such as psilocybin mushrooms, ayahuasca, other things like that. But the safest and easiest and most awesome, and some people that I've studied with say is the A team, is that's all they use is the drum or sound. And so they alter the consciousness so that they can access the spirit realms where loving and compassionate spirits dwell who want nothing but to help us. So they connect with that wisdom, that healing, those messages, that information, and then they bring it back down to earth. I kind of like to think of as a shaman as somebody doing these practices as standing on a surfboard that has like an infinity symbol on it, and one foot is in the spirit world and one is in this reality, and they're just riding the waves and helping their family, helping their community, helping their friends, helping, like that. So yeah, and it's everybody is a little bit shaman. Everybody has this ability, if you're interested, to do this practice and to forge this connection for yourself. And why not avail yourself to all the information and the love and compassion of the universe? Somebody said something like, yeah, like some people wait to go to heaven, but why not go tonight? And I'm not saying it's like going to heaven, although sometimes it is compared to this reality, but yeah. And so that's how I got to meet Alice and my spirit helper, who happens to be an elephant. And I have many other spirit helpers too, but she's kind of one of my main squeezes, I would say, and really encouraged me to like let go of medicine. Just it's okay. Like she kind of came in when I really needed the guts and the courage and the permission, I think, to just say, it's okay. You studied all this medicine for so long, but you do not have to keep going just because that's the logical thing to do. Yeah. So let's see. Did I answer
Thank you.
the shaman
Yes.
question? Yeah. Oh, and then I was
Yes.
going to say, how does somebody get called a shaman? And within the people that I trained with, it's like, do you create miracles, or does your community say that you are a shaman? It's like we don't necessarily go around saying, "Well, I'm a shaman," whatever. But it's just this
Back to
like,
the ego project again, right? Like as soon as you name it, you have to kill it.
yeah, and it's like, if somebody does alterations on prom dresses, do they get a good result? Well, people are going to bring their prom dresses to that person, right? It's like,
Yeah.
so it's just you get validated in your community is essentially how it works. Um, yeah, and I love that idea that we creating miracles, which that's a whole nother discussion. Like, what are the
Mm.
conditions to create a miracle? But
I love that. And there's a little bit of how this is weaving in my brain in a way that's parallel to coaching. Sarah is also a physician coach and was a teacher for many years in the Martha Beck Wayfinder coaching training program, which I certified with. So we have this background in common. And, anybody can call themselves a coach, but also it is advisable from my perspective to have some apprenticing, to have some formal learning in addition to that feeling in your body of this is for me. And so I am responding to this question about shamanism because I think for many years I've known that there is part of that type of spiritual work that is for me, but I have been loath to deeply step into it because there is fear of claiming a role that I have no right to. And then you have just kind of put me at ease in terms of like, there's no need to call it anything because I know I don't trust my ego. My ego will make something of it. She always does. And I am always trying to unknit what she knits, and be like, nope, just leave the strands hanging. It's okay. We don't have to make meaning out of everything, especially self-identified meaning out of everything. We can just be and do what is ours to do, and then it doesn't always matter what we call it.
And I am at a place now which is different than I was at when I first started stepping into these things. And I mean, I remember when I first discovered that about the whole thing about like there were wild animals had messages for you. And I started like, oh my gosh. And then I discovered my spirit animal. And I was like, now, wait a minute. I don't think I'm supposed to be dabbling in this. This isn't belong to me. This isn't, I wasn't raised in Anishinaabe or Hopi or, I don't know, maybe this is a bad idea. And I've had different initiations throughout the years that have helped me kind of come to my own conclusions about things. I guess I'll
Yeah.
just leave it there, but
Mm-hmm.
it's mysterious how these things work.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
As white women, it's important that co-opting is acknowledged and avoided. And
Yes.
also there is room for deeply felt truth in that
Yes.
same room.
Yes. Yes. And yeah, it's been an amazing process of growth, and I'm just grateful to be here for it.
Thank you for being open and just being willing to talk about it, because I think that it's something that anybody I know would be really interested in and curious about. And how did you get there? Like, how did you go from being a pathologist, a fourth
Yeah.
generation physician, to where you are now? Which, by the way, one of the things we may talk about is your fabulous art. Sarah's just an amazing art maker as well.
So what happened to me is I was feeling kind of disconnected at work. Like I'm not really as into this as I used to be. And some of the things that would happen in like our breast care conference every week, I'd be like, wait a minute, what? I mean, I was just like, there's so much that I don't understand. And I don't know, I just started getting this feeling like there's more to life than. So anyway, I got a coach because I hired a coach who wasn't a Martha Beck coach, but just like listened to me and it gave me a place to just like pour out my heart. It's so important to have somebody neutral who you don't really you have they have no horse in the game, you have no horses in the game, and you can just get it out. And anyway, through that, I finally determined that it would be good to take a sabbatical. And so I saved up, I did a lot of things. So I was able to make that happen. Because as you know, some of us we're relying on big parts of our income, all these things. So that
Yeah.
process involved like downsizing and many other things to make that happen. But eventually I
Hmm.
took a sabbatical. And that's where I sort of had the time to do the Martha Beck coach training, which was just something I was interested in. And that's when I stumbled into this idea in a bookstore, as one does, that there were animal messages that could help you. I was like, wait, what? Nobody told me this. That I always thought animals were like we were the top of the heap. We knew what was up. And anyway, we were here to guide animals to their to um anyway, it was just kind of a whole paradigm shift. But that's where it happened. And I found that it was incredible. I was like, I just started seeing animals everywhere, and I was like, oh my God, they all have messages. I mean, it got to the point where I was just like, my mind was kind of blown. And then I was having a hard time explaining it to the guys at the office. Like, I'd like to extend the sabbatical another 3 months if you wouldn't mind. And I mean, I never did tell them at the time what was going on with me because I was like, hey guys, I'm getting messages from wild animals. It would be cool if I don't come back for a while. I'm just really into it. And anyway, it all worked out that I was able to take that time off. And that's when I was like, this is just so, so important and rewarding. And I don't even understand it, but it's what I'm looking for, even though I don't know where it's taking me. And so that's kind of how it
Yes.
started. And I started a podcast with a friend. This is back in the day when there were no podcasts. It was like a dial-in podcast. And people, I don't know how the hell they found it. This is one of these weird things. Like, people called in every week with stories. Literally, were like, I don't even know how you found us, telling the most incredible stories about animals and what happened to them and the messages they received. And they were so miraculous and so mind-blowing. And like, we'd all just be like shaking our heads like, this is crazy. Like, anyway, and that's where it kind of validated it all for me, because I was like, okay, this isn't just me. This is like kind of a global phenomenon that somehow animals show up at the right time and they're like, hey, and you're like, I must leave my job, or I must do this, or whatever, or everything's going to be okay, or whatever the message is. Yeah, so that was the process. And then I started writing a book about that experience of learning these things and just hoping that it could maybe help somebody else. Because at the time, a lot of the books that were out were kind of, I don't want to say, they just kind of had a weird spookiness to them, some of them. And I was like, wow, the last thing you need is like a spooky kind of a weird feeling when you're reading a book and you're scared to death about your life and how it's imploding. And so that's why I wanted to bring more like playfulness into it. And I feel like that's what a lot of us are missing anyway when we're going through it. We need to be reminded, like, it can be fun, it can be delightful too, even though it's not that easy. So that's
Oh
more
my
or less
gosh.
the story. And then I just got more and more serious about it. And I kept going. I did go back to work. And that was hard. It was just like, wow, I can't believe I did this as long as I did.
And then you made preparations to leave.
And then eventually, yeah, which took a while to extricate myself. But Alice, she was like, I went to her, I was like, what should I do? I mean, I got, and it's just like, what am I going to do? And she just like took all my diplomas and just started like throwing them into the river. She's like, where you're going, girl, you do not need any of these. And I'm like,
But I worked really hard for
sure, are
those.
you sure?
What year did you hire a coach for the first time?
That
I'm
would have
just so
been,
curious.
I would say, let's see, I went on the sabbatical in 2010. I would say it was 2007 or 8. So I
That
feel
is
like there's
so
this timing where you're kind of
amazing.
pre-preparing to do something, but you don't even know
Yeah.
what that thing
Yeah.
is. And
Yes.
it just takes time to work on you for a while, especially some of us who are more resistant.
We we hear the whisper, we ignore the whisper. We hear it again, we ignore it again. I mean, 2007, 8, physician coaching was really, really not prevalent from my perspective. Certainly not like it is in this moment in 2025.
Yeah.
So well found your resource. And the sabbatical is giving me like trial separation before divorce vibes. The
Yeah.
trial separation from the medical career that led to rediscovering, getting your mojo back, like, or getting your mojo for, could have been for the first time. I am so curious too, Sarah, about some examples of the animal messages, because I know that our listeners are probably like, well, tell me one, tell me two, tell me what.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, like one really simple, I mean, these thing about these things is they sound so simple and so almost dumb. I don't want to say dumb, but they don't seem like as radical. But for example, when I was on my sabbatical, one of the things that I was doing is I would go on a walk. And before I would go on a walk, I would just set my intention. I'm going to see a beastie and I'm asking for specific help. Because by this time I was like, oh, they're everywhere. They're like ready to help you with everything. It's like, today I need some help because I have a strong feeling I want to write a book, but I have no idea how you do that or what. I don't even know. I've been a reader my whole life, but I don't get it. How do you do that? And so I went on this walk and I was just like looking around, hoping for a hawk or something really sassafras, like a box turtle or something, And of course, the only thing I saw that day were these ants kind of trekking across the sidewalk. And I was just like, huh. So I wrote that down in my little journal, which by then I was keeping a journal. You know it, right? You're just like, okay, I'm going slowly mental. What am I going to do? Let's keep it in a journal. And I was like, okay, if these ants were trying to teach me a message about how to write a book, what would that be? And it's just these ants were just going across the sidewalk. And on one side of the sidewalk, there was like a giant like sandcastle pile. And I was like, oh, well, that could be like the book. And then I guess they're just like just carrying what they can and then just moving it around and then putting it over there on the book. And they're just like, it was just this idea that things take time. And also, they weren't doing it alone. There were many ants involved, you know? And I was like, okay, so I'm not going to do this alone. It's just going to be one tiny, only something you can carry at a time. And so that afternoon, I opened a file on my computer and wrote like Sarah's book and the title that I thought it was going to be. And that was that. And then I wrote a couple ideas of what I thought should be included in this book. And then I closed the thing. And as you know from Martha Beck coaching, that's what we teach our clients. Like you just do one little tiny thing and then you put it away. And then you do it the next day. You do one more tiny thing and you give yourself rewards for doing that if you're doing it well, I guess. So yeah, that would be one. And like I remember, let's see, there's so I'm trying to think of some other really good ones. I'll think of there's one is coming to mind for a client of mine. She was had something tragic happen to her and was just like, oh my God, like feeling so stressed about the disposition of this person in her life. Where did they go? Are they okay? This was so sudden. This is so horrible. And she arrived on her apartment door and somehow underneath like the door knocker or somehow in the door was a feather that was the exact identity of this person in her life's spirit animal. Like she knew that was her favorite animal.
Mm.
How does such a feather get in somebody's doorknob? I mean, I don't know. I have another. I mean, just so some things are more extraordinary like that. Like,
Yeah, that's
um,
a chills one. And was it
yes,
like an unusual bird, not a bird that necessarily
yes, it
would?
was an unusual bird. So you're just like,
Okay. Wow.
sometimes things like that, that are really extraordinary. And I have, you know, they never stop. I mean, like, one time I was, and sometimes they're deeper than that. Like when I was out in the woods, I was just like that's my normal stuff. And like I go into this woods, which I call the 100-acre woods. It's like all these super tall lodgepole pines. And then there was one that was like a stump. And on the stump, the squirrels were having like this little party on the stump. There was just like all these seeds and things sitting there. And what I ascertained from that was just this idea that we have to make a feasting table of our wounds. Because here's this tree that's been chopped down anyway, and that just really hit me deep because I was like,
Mm.
okay, I have to talk about my woundings. And then that's the beautiful people, that's what they do. They make a feast out of their woundings. I'll tell a crazy story of a
What?
woman. This one's so good. I love this
Can
one.
I like pause there for one
Yes, please.
second? Because I just want to hug that sentence. Like, make a feasting table of our wounds. Okay, so that's like giving tree vibes right there. It's
Yes.
also another way of saying this thing that is a tenet that I have shared multiple times that I feel like I want every suffering to go to be transformed. Like how I say it is, may no suffering go untransformed, which means like suffering will occur. I want to transform whatever I go through so that it is of service to others because that will help me feel like I have been emptied out of all the useful stuff before I die. And that's my goal as somebody who understands that that's part of my mission on the planet, you know, like let me be
Yeah.
of joyful service. Let the suffering be transformed. Make a feasting table of our wounds is such, I mean, it's this generosity.
Nature's doing it all day long. That's all they do. They're all dying and falling down and limping and lost a leg. And I mean, they are not complaining. They're just doing their thing. And it's so incredible. This is why I think, well, I just walked in the woods today and I'm just like, I have this desire to just crawl into the woods and disappear and fall into the ground and just melt into it because it doesn't have an issue. I have issues because my brain is so full of thoughts, you know? Here's another crazy story, just real quick, because I just love it so hard. there's this woman who she was working for, like, let's call it Hewlett Packard. Okay. Anyway, she's at the campus. She's worked there for 20 years. She's like 10 years. I don't remember the time. It was a long time. And at the lunchroom, they're all sitting in this beautiful, there's a campus with all these trees. And she noticed there's a white squirrel on one of the trees. She's like, oh my God, like, did you guys see that white squirrel? And everybody's like, yeah, Janine, everybody knows about the Hewlett Packard white squirrel or whatever. And she's like, oh my God, that's so wild. She was just kind of struck by it. Well, anyway, at the time, she's like, I think I want to go to medical school and not be a computer programmer for the rest of my life. But she was stuck, right? She just so scared to leave, which she has so much security. And her dad's like, don't leave this job. It's too good. Finally, she gets the courage, saves up the money for the tuition. She hands in her things. She comes into work early to clean out her desk. She doesn't even want to talk about it with anybody. She's just leaving. She's got the box. She goes to the door and she opens the door. And what do you suppose happened? A white squirrel jumps into the threshold. I mean, I get goosebumps. This is how all these stories are. My goosebumps aren't showing up very well on camera, but it's just, she said, Sarah, I saw that squirrel and I knew, like I knew a million times over, this is exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. I now have no doubt. Thank you, squirrel.
Yes.
I
Thank
mean,
you,
it doesn't,
universe, for the confirmation.
but it's just, that's how these are. Like, people can tell you and you're like, oh, that's cool. You had a serpent show up in your bed and then you knew it was time for your icky girlfriend to go or whatever.
Oh my gosh, the Bible is full of those sorts of things, right? Like this is not new wisdom. It's just a matter of like opening our urbanized, modernized minds to organic meaning making again and alignment and contact with nature again. And
Yes.
side story, not for nothing, not the last time I was in Minnesota, but the first time I went to Minnesota, we were walking around the lake in the neighborhood and I saw for the first time an albino squirrel, a white squirrel. And I was so struck by this, Sarah, that I had to go home immediately and look up, like, what is the meaning of white squirrel? In
An
fact, I didn't
albino.
wait. Who are we talking about? I had an encyclopedia in my pocket. I got it on my phone. I was like immediately researching like the mystical potential meaning of white squirrel. And the same friends that I was visiting had just given me this infinity scarf. And what do you think was on the pull tab of the zipper that it has a little pocket so you could like stash your phone in your infinity scarf?
A white
There's a
squirrel.
white squirrel on the pull tab. So please tell me, what in the actual fuck do I need to know about a white squirrel?
Well, this is the tricky part of this business I've gotten into to some degree, because writing that book, it's like people are like, so what does it mean
Oh
if I
yeah,
had
so
like
now you're the master of
a
all knowledge.
hedgehog in it? And I'm like, I wrote the book
I
so
don't
you
know.
could figure that out. You know what I mean? It's like my
Yes.
sister's always like, write your own hour of comedy if you want, barrel chested one liners. I can't do that kind. But like, I wanted other people to be encouraged to begin to make their own meaning, because that's where the power's at. I mean,
Yeah.
I still look at my book sometimes because I'm like, well, I'll be deviled. I don't know. I mean, I want to open my mind to something, what are the possibilities here? But yeah, I think it's just, what is it? Martha Beck says, like, what if the universe was a kind universe? I love that question, because if the universe is kind, let's just presume for a minute,
For
and
the
that
sake
things,
of argument.
yeah, everything's here to help us on a journey. Like Bilbo Baggins and on the Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we all have to get some golden ring into a volcano, and it's not easy. So it's like, look around and see who's here to help, because there's probably somebody.
Yes. Look for the helpers. Yeah. Thank you for sharing the white squirrel. I feel less alone. Tell your friend.
Yes, I will. Anyway, such a good story.
Such a good story.
Yeah, so just, I always tell, like, the thing is, just specifically ask yourself, if you're doing it retrospectively, like you saw the white squirrel already, then you can ask yourself, what's been really in my craw for the last 30 minutes or last day or so, like my kids won't go to bed or whatever it is. Then ask yourself, what if the squirrel is trying to help me get my kids to bed? What is it trying to show me in its behavior, in the way it was doing things, or just the way it is? Then you just get into some really good stuff, some really rich ideas. And the other thing is just wow, like your friendships will open up more when you start to talk about these more deep meaning things and like, well, who is your favorite wild animal? I mean, you find out why people are the way they are and you begin to have more compassion and understanding. It's like, oh, she's a red tail hawk. I mean, no
What do you
wonder
expect?
she won't let you eat her french fries because they do this when they're eating their food, like they mantle, it's like, oh, it makes so much sense.
Oh my goodness. What a
Yeah,
fun way to see the world.
it is
What a
fun.
fun way to see the world.
If nothing else, at least you're more entertained.
That's right. You know what? That is a non-zero value proposition, especially in this day and age.
Yes.
Like if the boat is going down, we might as well play charades.
Yes. Yes.
That sounds very silly. I am so curious to also talk to you about the Boundaries workbook.
Oh,
I do
yes.
not possess it yet, but
Yep.
boundaries are a frequently visited topic in coaching humans of all sorts, but in
Yes.
particular, physicians who have been indoctrinated, no pun intended, to subvert and violate their own boundaries under the name of the ethical pillar of self sacrifice, which has a place, but does
Yes.
not have all the places. So I would love to hear how you got inspired to write about that and yeah,
Yeah.
share away.
That makes me think of back in residency. I remember learning some boundaries from a woman, another pathologist who was so freaking cool. She was like very smart and very amazing and I just like worshiped the ground she walked on. But one of the things that I remember was there was this surgeon who came into her office and he was just like losing his shit. I mean, yelling, just freaking out in general, completely like terrifying to me because I was just like little resident sitting there going, oh my God, what are you going to do? And this woman who I admired was like the sweetest, most like gentle creature you ever should know. But when this guy came into her office like that, and he was like, Tammy, he was calling her by her first name, which was like, oh God. And she was just like, Robert, hello. And she basically started addressing him by his first name. And that was like immediately he started to kind of calm down because it was like, oh, remember, you're just one of us. You're not like the doctor right now. We're both I think that's what I watched kind of happen. And she just began to speak with him like he was any old person. And eventually he calmed down and sat down, and then she was able to. But I was like, holy crap. And I remember the first time some irate surgeon came at me, I immediately invoked their first name. I had to look at their name badge because I was new at that city and that hospital. But I was like, Mary Ellen or whoever it was who's coming at me. I'm like, I'll be getting back to you about that. This is the standard of care, whatever. So for me, so I think we can learn so much. So if you know another physician who has kick-ass boundaries, like ask them how they work their magic, see how they do it, watch them. They can teach you a
Oh
lot.
yes. Oh
Yeah.
yes.
Like I have a policy. Oh, I have a little common email that I have them send out when somebody says that or whatever. Um, so for me as a coach, I was cleaning out my office one day in like March and I saw these three boundaries that I had written on a post-it note to myself for the new year with client scheduling and things like of that nature. Because me being like so nice, I'm always sure we can whatever. And I was like, oh my God, I have violated every one of my own boundaries. Like I'm suspect number one. And that's when I realized you can read all the blogs, you can do all the things, but if you can't do it, you don't know enough yet. So I decided that summer to do a 100-day project. Again, I was like, this
Oh
will
yeah.
force me to learn something that is very important for me to learn. And so I basically just sort of read a little bit about boundaries every day and then sort of summarized what I learned. And then I illustrated it. So it was like this kind of double whammy of like learning and then integrating. And then I would practice it where possible, in my life. And so it was absolutely game changing. Now I say things on the phone that I mean, literally, sometimes I get off the phone and I laugh. I'm like, I can't believe you just said that. Like, that doesn't work for me. And it literally trips off my tongue. Years ago, I had a client who I said, "Could you try this phrase? Something like that doesn't work for me." At the time, I was like, "I don't even know why I'm suggesting this. I would never say that." But anyway, 'cause sometimes we can do that, right? Like offer something. And years later, she pulled me aside. She's like, "Remember when you told me that that doesn't work for me?" She's like, "I just couldn't imagine somebody like you ever saying that." Um,
Huh?
I say it now because I just realized, like, oh my gosh, if you don't protect your time and space, nobody else can do that for you. It's your job, it's your work. And that summer, again, with that project, I got so many messages, so many private messages, not tons of comments, but a lot of messages like, "Oh my God, I made a boundary. Thank you for doing this. Oh my God, I didn't know you could say that. I'm gonna try doing this." So I knew it was something it wasn't just me, it was affecting a lot of people. And there's so many misunderstandings about boundaries, and the Dalai Lama has like badass boundaries. That guy's like full of compassion, but also full of boundaries.
Yes. Yes, and there's something so comforting to me when somebody's clear with their boundaries. When I teach about boundaries, I talk about like the vibes of a well-developed boundary. Like it's so calming. It's actually so calming. It's not biting, it's not barky, it's not indignant. It's so neutral because you are just protecting yourself. You are just like, oh,
Yes.
this is where I don't go beyond. This is where I don't let people come past. It's cool. It's just a fence. A fence is not angry.
Yes.
It's
I
just a
love that.
barrier.
Exactly. Like one of the things I talk about in the book, and I don't remember where I read this. I think it's all in the book, but which is fully illustrated with color pictures because I think that helps us to engage in a topic that could be rather dry and boring, but it's not. It's so interesting. But making a policy is really nice because, like, that summer, I don't know what it was after the pandemic or during the pandemic when it was like for some reason everybody in their decided that they wanted to book an appointment with me that summer, and I got really overwhelmed and kind of I wasn't really burned out, but I was on the edge of it. And then I realized that I had to have this thing where people could like do a what it was I was on a podcast and this woman goes, "I can't believe you're still charging the same amount of money that you charged 6 years ago," or something like that. Like, and then I had this moment like, "Oh, and what you charge isn't really a boundary, but in a way it is, right?" So, I raised my rates that summer, which helped a lot with my clients. And then the other thing is I created a policy around like, "Hey, if you want to pick my brain, here's the appointment you should make." Because that was another summer where people were like, "Hey, I have this friend and she wants to write a book," or and that's awesome, and I've done so much of that, but at a certain point it was untenable and unsustainable for my energy to be with my family and all the things that were going on in my world, and also help the
Yes.
free world um,
Yes.
learn how to write a book, which most of us can learn from ants, or also there are many books on the subject. So yeah, I think a policy is nice. Like, and then you can just come, "Oh, like I have a policy." Like, I just absolutely don't see people on Thursday afternoons or whatever.
Yes. Yes. I have a policy is such a great turn of phrase. It means it's not about you. It means it's not personal. It means
Right.
a no is coming, but it's not for you to make about yourself.
Yes. Yes.
It's a blessing to just say, "Oh, I have a policy." I mean, I have a friend who now has a policy that he will no longer work on research projects for free, because that accidentally happened.
Yes.
And there's a policy in place now. Like, I think that once we have a policy in place, we're much more reliable with that boundary.
Yeah, and I think sometimes we have to think through it. Like, it takes a while. Like, I've been just getting recently a bunch of requests for donating art pieces of art to like auctions and things like that. And lately, it's been giving me pause. It's interesting. Oh, like yeah, do I want, is that how I want to be giving of myself, giving art away, or do I want to give something else? I don't know. I just, it comes up for you and you don't want to respond to the email because you're still thinking about it. Like, that's a good way
Mhm.
to know your boundary is about to be trounced by you, or you're just not sure what your boundary is when you don't respond to the email for 24 hours or longer. Or you're resentful. If you're resentful, it's too late. Like now you've already or in your mind, you've already given yourself up.
I'm hearing my own inner dialogue and I am imagining some others. Like, what is the cost of nice here? What is the cost of nice? And am I actually aligned with the cost of being viewed as nice? But I can totally imagine that conflict feeling of like, oh, there's a pull to people please or to take on the cost of nice, but my full body is not a yes for this, right?
Yeah.
Like if you had a full body yes for a donation, you know that pretty
Yes,
quickly. Like you have a
exactly.
full body yes for a meeting with somebody, that's because you're expecting reciprocal energy exchange, and that is delightful. If
Yes.
you are just being milked for information, it may or may not be delightful depending on what things are up for you in your
Right.
arc.
And I love the full body yes, because like sometimes too, like I can be like a deer in the headlights. I'm so empathic. And if somebody says,
Yes.
hey, do you want, and like I'm like, I want to be whatever, but sometimes I need that step back and that pause. My husband's a master of that. He's like, let me get back to you on that. That one needs
Yes.
to come back into my comes into my phraseology, because that one does not, I'm not the kind of person I want to get back to you. I want to decide right now, yes or no. So some of it's personality also.
Yes, I love that. There's so much more that we could explore,
I
Sarah.
know.
And also I'm aware that time is passing. And what else needs to be said today from your perspective? I mean, we have not explicitly included the topic of joy, but I believe we have threaded it all the way through this conversation. And I,
Yes.
I wonder what else is wanting to be said.
I think I would love to just say that what I did learn from leaving medicine is that the one thing that's missing from our sort of wellness plan, I think in general, is self expression, whether that's through singing, dancing, painting, writing, whatever. That's what I learned in as I began to explore shamanism and just being with people from all over the world, is that
Yeah.
that is built in, that is baked into the cake. And there's a beautiful quote from Gabrielle Roth that says, like, I'm going to get it slightly wrong, but if you came to the shaman and said, I'm not doing well, or I've got a lot of bad luck happening for me, or my house burned down and my goat died and I don't know what the hell's going on. It's like the shaman will ask you a series of questions. When did you stop dancing? When did you stop singing? When did you stop being enchanted by the territories of your own silence? When did you stop telling
Mm.
stories? Because typically we can retrace back to that moment when that stopped, that things started to unravel. And so, did somebody silence you? Did a vocation silence you? I mean, maybe you were
Mm.
cruising around and you were a poet, and then medicine came along and was like, whack, like, you don't have time
Oh
for
my
that.
God.
And plus, it's not legitimate, whatever.
Sarah, I am a closet poet, and I
I am too
I
now. I'm
wrote
not,
some
I'm
of
not
my
even in
like
the closet.
deepest poetry during my surgical rotations as a medical student and during
So
my
important.
divorce. It's so good to
So
have that
important.
reminded.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes,
So,
yes.
yeah, find a way to express yourself. It'll bring life to your life. And joy, because
Yes.
there's nothing better than expressing yourself.
Yes. It is life-giving and joyful.
Yeah.
I'm sending you a great big hug of gratitude and
Thank you. Same.
just celebrating this conversation. People can find things Sarah Seidelmann flavored at followyourfeelgood.com, which is a really
Yeah, and if
fun
you're curious to
phrase.
find a beastie for yourself, there's a meditation there that you can, if you subscribe to my weekly newsletter, you'll get access to the recording for that.
I am going to go do that as soon as we hang up from this call.
Yay.
Um, Thank you guys for being with us. Thank you, Sarah, for this beautiful conversation.
It
And I
was so
cannot wait
fun.
for our paths to keep crossing in creative and surprising ways.
Thank you for having me. It was a delight.
Thank you to Dr. Sarah Bamford Seidelmann for this rich and whimsical journey into boundaries, creativity, and the sacred absurd. From shamanic animal allies to 100-day art projects, Sarah reminded us that healing doesn't have to be linear and joy doesn't have to wait. Next week, we are joined by Coach Margaret Moore, a true pioneer in the field of coaching. She helped establish the standards for what evidence-based coaching looks like in healthcare today, and her latest book, The Science of Leadership, weaves neuroscience, psychology, and coaching into a practical, powerful framework for wholeness. We'll talk about the 9 parts of the mind, what it means to be truly integrated, and how we can lead from the inside out. That conversation sets the stage for something we hope you'll say yes to. The Physician Coaching Summit happening November 6th to 8th at Savannah Wellness Resort and Spa in Carefree, Arizona. We officially begin with a full moon yoga nidra on the evening of November 5th, a beautiful start to a time of restoration, connection, and joy. This is CME accredited, so yes, you can use your CME funds to get restored. And what better form of restorative justice is there than using your professional development dollars to reclaim your energy, clarity, and joy? Our discounted room block is shrinking, and there are now less than 40 days to go. If you've been on the fence, this is your cue. Come rest, connect, and remember who you are. As always, a gentle reminder, I'm a doctor, but not your doctor. Nothing in this episode is intended as medical advice. Please consult your own trusted providers. Special thanks to our producer, Kelsey Vaughn, and to my wife, Sweet Sue. May we say yes to the strange invitations, honor our creative instincts, and trust that joy finds us when we're brave enough to follow the breadcrumbs. See you next time, friends.